Hey, gang, welcome to the finale of season 1 of the Orville. Right here on Talking the Orville. I'm so glad that we are here. We did it. We're so close right here to finishing out the first season of the Orville. An amazing season, the season that introduced all of us to this incredible universe created by Seth MacFarlane, the thing that brought us all together all these years. As most of you know, I've been covering the Orville, talking about the Orville, engaging with the Orville since 2017. That was a long time ago. And we're all geared up and ready to go. We are so close to production of season 4 of the Orville starting just a couple months away. They're going to start loading things up into their studio. They're going to start building the sets, putting things together, taking some stuff out of storage and putting that all together so that they can begin filming the Orville season 4, which will in turn bring us more episodes of the Orville. We don't have enough episodes yet. We have 36 episodes altogether with some amazing stories packed into the Orville comic books, which are official Orville stories from the writing team. More importantly than just the writing team, David A. Goodman, who is one of the writers from the Orville, he wrote all the Orville comics, and there's some great adventures there. I would love to see some of those adventures turned into episodes, but I don't think we'll get that. We'll get fresh news stories that nobody's ever seen before, including Sympathy for the Devil, which was written by Seth MacFarlane for season 3. But they weren't able to film that incredible episode because there's a whole world pandemic going on. There wasn't a lot of travel allowed back in the day, and they're like, well, if we can't travel abroad to film this sucker, we're going to wait for season 4. That was the hope back then, and now they know that hope has come to life and is now true because they're going to be making season 4 of the Orville. We know this. We've known that this was going to happen, and now we actually do know that it's going to happen, and that's great. How are you guys doing today on this fine fall day? It actually is fall outside, finally. Summer lasted way too dang long. Me personally, I have one more week. Many of you know I've gotten a new job that I started 5 weeks ago, but there were 6 weeks of training, and I'm about to finish my 6th week of training before I go into my new schedule. I'm super excited about the new schedule. The schedule's not only going to allow me to have a job, an official job, but it'll allow me to have a schedule that gives me time every day to make content and to keep up the channels. I just recently, just a little bit, I didn't have a lot of time, started tinkering around with the original Egotastic Fun Time channel that has almost 109,000 followers. Started tinkering on with that. I haven't had much time, but the plan with that is I might possibly reapply for monetization tomorrow. I've been able to clean up the channel a little bit. I have a lot more plans, but I don't want to enact to those plans until the channel gets monetized. But that doesn't have much to do with the Orville, that other channel. So why am I even talking about it? This is the Orville place. This is the place for talking the Orville right here. And unless YouTube does some crazy stuff to me like they've done before in the past, this will always be the spot for talking the Orville. Dex says, that's great to hear, JP. Norm says, good afternoon, JP. Well, hello, you guys. What's up, Raider? How you doing? And the rest of you who have not popped into the chat yet, but I do see that you are lined up as a viewer on my little analytics screen that YouTube provides me for these live shows. Hello to you as well. This episode that we're going to watch here today, Mad Idolatry, is not only my favorite episode from season 1, but it is the favorite episode of season 1 for most Orvillians out there. There's a lot of episodes to to love and to have be your number one on the list. And the podcast is here. What is going on, you guys? Hey, JP. Hello, podcast. I hope things are going well in your neck of the YouTube woods and the social media woods. When it comes to social media, we're all out in the woods, I would say. It's a giant forest. Probably needs some trees cut down, but that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, my new job, I have one more week before my new schedule starts. I'm super excited about that. Like I said, I'm tinkering with Egotastic Fun Time, bringing that back in a whole new way, a very different way than I did before. I posted a couple of re-edits today on that channel just because I figured, to be monetized on a channel, you have to have posted at least 3 videos within 90 days. And I'm like, well, I haven't posted anything in many days because I've been working right here on Talking the Orville. So I posted a few things today. Those things that I posted, while they have the correct vibe for the channel, they're not the type of videos that I'm going to be posting on the channel. Podcast says that they are lost in the woods. That happens sometimes. One time in the Star Wars universe, they were lost in the woods for a while, and they had to run around on some speeder bikes. But this isn't talking the Star Wars. This is talking the Orville, right? All right, so you guys, if we're going to start this watch party, I might as well get things set up. So for those of you who do not know, which everyone here I'm sure knows, the way these watch parties work is you have me right here on the screen. You have a partial sliver of the episode also on the screen with the subtitles going on with the episode. That way people can follow along if you're not watching along at home. Queued up the episode, Mad Idolatry, Season 1, Episode 12 of the Orville. While it's playing, I'll be giving not only behind-the-scenes information about this episode, but also just commentary. We'll all be giving commentary about this incredible episode. Let me just get all my buttons started here. So you guys, are you ready? Are you ready for this watch party? The way it'll work is I'll give a countdown down from 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. On 1, we all press play at the same time, and then the magic begins. If you guys are ready, I'll just wait for one of you, at least just one of you, to say that you are ready. And if you are ready, that means we are all ready, because I am definitely ready to start this episode. So just let me know. All right, Dex says that they are ready. So guess what that means? That means we're going to watch this episode. Mad Idolatry, Season 1, Episode 12 of the Orville. My favorite episode of Season 1 of the Orville. We're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I got all my buttons set up here. Now, this is an incredibly famous scene from the Orville. This is the Latchcomb scene. This is another scene where we're like, dang, anything can happen on this show. Of course, Ed is just bored, wants a little bit of kinship, walking around, seeing who might want to go out and have a drink with him or do anything with him. And when I say anything, I guess that really does mean anything, because he ends up playing Latch. All right, so Mad Idolatry. Had it not been you, the mythology would have found another face. It's a part of every culture's evolution. That's what Fadolin said, the leader of the Interphasic planet people at the end of this episode. And that's a great commentary. This is my favorite type of sci-fi episode. Let me turn it down on my end a little bit so I can hear myself. I like hearing myself. Vendetta Wild, Jaloja JP. Jaloja T, Vendetta Wild. Put that up on the screen there. It's my favorite type of episode because it's a what if episode. What if a not even a pre-societal people, but a people that are pre. What happens if they come across an advanced person with advanced technology, and then that person disappears? What happens to the mythos? How does it build? We find out how that works in this episode, and it's something that that reflects back on humanity as a whole. What people have existed, what stories have happened in our history that makes us build up a huge mythology around it. It's something people do, and I guess people do that on other planets as well. Now we do get a great uh, follow-up of the Interphasic People in season 3 in the episode. Uh, oh gosh, what mortality paradox is the episode, and we get a callback of these Interphasic people to see where they ended up a couple of years from now, being that in their universe, time is sped up from our point of view, where every 11 days, 700 years go by. So what would happen if we were able to keep jumping 700 years in our own future? How would humanity advance, assuming humanity would run in 700 years? That one we still don't know for sure if that's going to happen or not. Booger says this episode kind of addressed what would have happened to the Losians from the Star Trek episode A Piece of the Action. Ooh, Star Trek. Oh, Latchcomb. I don't know if we ever got to Latchcomb in the Star Trek universe, but it would have been fun. Electa and Sally, the historical oracle. What is going on? Electa says, hey, dolls. Good point. Norm says those are the ones that could rescue Charlie. They could rescue Charlie. I also think that Priia can rescue Charlie. And one of you, I was always saying, hey, what if Priia needs Charlie's fourth dimensional mind for some reason? I never came up with a reason. One of you guys came up with a reason to rebuild the wormhole that the previous version of Priia used to use to go back in time, that Ed in the Orville destroyed at the end of the episode. Priia, what if she needs Charlie's mind to reopen that wormhole? That's a very good reason. All right, so Mad Idolatry is the 12th and final episode of the first season of the Orville. The crew encounters a planet from another universe whose inhabitants start to worship First Officer Kelly Grayson as a goddess. Meanwhile, Grayson and Captain Ed Mercer consider getting back together, which is kind of starting right here in this part of the episode. They're kind of rekindling a little bit. They decide to maybe try it out a little bit, and then she eventually puts the kibosh on it for reasons I think are ridiculous, because I don't think they matter. I think whether they're dating or not, Ed loves her, and it will still reconsider any action to put her in the way of harm, no matter what. Booger says, I know everyone thinks Charlie should be brought back, but I disagree. Her arc is much better knowing that she did not survive. Yeah, that's a great story. I think she should be brought back only in an episode. The Priia episode where Priia ends up saving her, and it's had her. She's been with Priia for maybe a couple of years, and she doesn't want to live anymore. She doesn't want to be alive, and then maybe she sacrifices herself again, and then it works out at the very end. I would love to have her come back for an episode, but I think bringing her back to life and then just having her go back into the crew, into the fold, like nothing ever happened, I don't think that would work. I'm talking to you, Spock. Yeah, that's right, Spock. I'm talking to you. Mad Idolatry was the final episode produced and was not finished until only 2 weeks before it aired. The episode aired December 7th, 2017. I guess, and it says formally December 14th. So I'm thinking maybe it got moved up by a week. That I'm not sure what that means. In the United Kingdom, it aired March 1st, 2018. In Germany, March 8th, 2018. And we got Belgium, Japan, Estonia. This is back in the day when things aired in different countries at different times. But now everything's pretty much airing pretty much on the same date around the world, thanks to these streaming services. Booger says, good point. Bringing her back risks her becoming like Tashiar, which is Sela, and one of the weakest subplots in TNG. Good old Sela. Yeah, I don't want any of that to happen. I just think having her come back for one adventure would be great. But yeah, having her be back permanently would kind of put the kibosh on the sacrifice that she made. This episode is generally regarded by fans as the finest of the first season. I have to agree on that. And perhaps the most highly rated as well. Even though general audience viewership was below the show's average at this point, critics note that the season concluded not on an expected cliffhanger, but with a thought provoking commentary on religion's role in the development of society. Very good. Yeah, we get a complete story, a complete finish to the season with this episode. No cliffhanger. We're not waiting to see what the Borg attack is going to end up as in the next season. We don't have to worry about Locutus aboard, nothing like that. It's just a final story, which the Orville has done in all of its seasons, which is great because uh, we want we want conclusions to every season's story, right? We don't want to be let on. What happens if they let us on and had a cliffhanger and then don't get another season? That would be horrible. That would be absolutely horrible. All right, let's scroll down here. Get past the plot because the plot will be in the episode that we're watching right now. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm enjoying the Orville theme song right at this moment. I doubt you can hear it on my end if my microphone's working correctly. It doesn't always work correctly. Sometimes it picks up too much stuff. Okay, production. Though the script of Mad Idolatry was completed by Seth MacFarlane sometime between June and October of 2016, filming was not completed until August 23rd, 2017. Filming of Admiral Isawa took place far earlier in April 26th, in April, when the crew was on day 4 of filming About a Girl. A call sheet from that day stated the Admiral tells Ed to handle it. Ed and Kelly talk to Admiral Isawa. So the Isawa scene in this episode was filmed many episodes before it was put into this episode. That's a little bit more like how they handled the filming of season 3. Booger says, "Can we just get a sci-fi show with normal people? Savants get boring and repetitive, like a ship full of Wesleys, or worse, Mary Sue's." Yeah, Wesley. I love Wesley, but I always would give Wesley a hard time when watching TNG. I remember that. I had a fun time. I've said this before on every Star Trek series. I always pick one character to give a hard time to. Like in Enterprise, I'd always give a hard time to Travis Merriweather. Anytime he said anything, I'm like, shut up, Travis. Even though Travis is awesome. Post production did not finish for this episode until remarkably late. Even by November 20th, 2017, MacFarlane and producer David A. Goodman confirmed that the episode was still in editing only 2 weeks before it aired. Composer Joel McNeely, one of our favorite composers for the Orville, spent roughly 3 weeks to complete the score. So that completes it. Every episode that we've watched, we have seen that the music has taken 3 weeks for every episode. That's a lot of weeks for only 12 episodes. Now, this episode was not supposed to be episode 12 of season 1 of the Orville. It was supposed to be episode 13. But the episode they really were not able to finish the effects for was the episode Primal Urges, which was supposed to be in season 1 of the Orville, but they didn't finish the effects. So that gets moved to season 2. And Mad Idolatry becomes the 12th episode as opposed to the 13th episode. So leading up to airing, Scott Grimes, who plays Gordon Malloy, her fave, said the script was the best television writing he has worked on. And the concept of a multiphasic planet was the most original science fiction he had ever read. Yeah, this is pretty damn high concept science fiction right here. Kelly, you better calm down. Right off the bat, as soon as Kelly ran into these people, I was like, Kelly, you messed up. You're not supposed to interact with anybody. Everybody on all sci-fi knows that. You're not supposed to interact with people that are this behind, not only technology-wise, but society-wise. They're just little villages and stuff. They don't have anything going on for them as a planet of people yet. But eventually, of course, they have a lot going on for them. So much so they can create pocket universes. But that's on an episode for another day during the season 3 watch party, which will be happening TBD. Oh, and then right here, it's talking about how a Mad Idolatry was supposed to be the 13th episode. But I already told you about it. I already knew about that. Deleted scene. In an unreleased deleted scene, the planet's inhabitants, we're talking about later in the episode when they come back and the society is more like 21st century Earth. So there's an unreleased deleted scene. It's a scene I actually have in my file somewhere around here. And the planet's inhabitants broadcast a puppet show of Kelly healing the girl that the bridge crew watch when they scan for broadcast signals of Kelly. The funny scene was cut after editors and producers agreed it did not fit the tone. Yeah, that's true. If you see the scene, a fun little scene, a short little scene, it didn't quite fit the tone of the rest of the scene that actually they left into the episode. That's right, Deck. The strict code of sci-fi. Don't talk to normies. That's all sci-fi knows that. But the puppets for the scene that was cut were designed by and created by MJL Puppet Design and used on camera by prop master Brian Rogers, who handled the puppet of the injured girl, and the head of the makeup department for season 1, Howard Berger, who handled Kelly. I met Howard a couple of years ago when I went to Daly's first concert, his piano concert. I saw Howard there, so I had to go introduce myself. And we were talking about our mutual friend, Patricia Tallman. But yeah, he was a nice guy. He was a great guy. And we were just chatting like buds. It was great. Let me see. Let me go here. Okay, so reception of this episode. Mad Idolatry was well received by general audiences and has become a favorite among fans of the series. The episode premiere was watched by roughly 3.5 million television viewers in the United States and enjoys an 8.6 rating on IMDb, the highest rated episode of the season. And yeah, we've talked about this. Most episodes of the Orville, when they aired, they got about 3.5 to 4 million views, which is a lot in this day and age. Thanks to streaming and there just being way too many damn shows. Most people don't watch television all at the same time on the same day anymore when it comes to shows because they can watch them pretty much on demand. And then on streaming, every episode of the Orville will get about the same, in addition to what they'd get when it aired. And of course, this aired on Fox Primetime in season 1 and in season 2. So that's another reason that they moved to stream. They're like, hey, we're getting the same amount of views on the streaming as we are on the primetime live airing. Another reason that it should be okay to move to streaming. And so they did. And then right in front of me right now, I don't have streaming viewership numbers because we're not working with that information right now. We're working with season 1 information. Critical response. Though the Orville had been panned by critics for much of the first season, the finale became a favorite of both fans and professional critics alike. Professional critics. I don't consider most critics to be professional critics, but they call them that here. And in the industry, they call them that. Most critics, I just think, are people guided by whatever's going on in their lives, telling you about a thing, and they always put in what's going on in their lives usually affects how they like or dislike a thing. So I never listen to critics. I don't consider myself a critic. and generally taken to be the best received episode of the year. Den of Geek awarded the episode 4 stars, writing that the innovative plot was not necessarily game changing. It gave us food for thought and allowed for the evolution of Ed and Kelly's relationship. Food for thought, that is such a good term to be applied to the Orville. So many of these episodes, these stories are food for thought. There's something for us to think about. And that's also my favorite type of science fiction, the kind that just gives us things to think about and we can apply to our own lives however we see fit. Booger says, I have dealt with normals. They are way weirder than us. I don't recommend it. And Norm says, retired from working with normals after 35 years. Yeah, stay away from the normals, you guys. And I guess that means you got to get into the weirds. The opposite of normal is weirds. But I don't consider the weirds to be weird. That's something to think about. More food for thought right there. The AV Club enjoyed the episode as an enjoyable, low intensity finale that innovated on the typical television plot arc where the protagonists are also the ones who correct an episode's problem. They were saying tonight's episode was surprisingly anticlimactic, and I mean that in a good way. It's a satisfying defiance of convention that the central problem of tonight's episode ultimately managed to self-correct without any help from the Orville crew. Yeah, and well, I would like to know how the planet would have, how the society would have evolved without Isaac being there. And I mean, the Interphasic People said, "Oh, Isaac didn't really have anything to do with it. We were on the path that we were on anyway. We just got used to it, being part of society." But really, really, is that really true? Whether they, of course, they believe it, but is it really the case? What would have happened if Isaac never showed up? And also, one good point about the next episode of the Orville, season 2, episode 1, is which was Geloja, is that by the time we get to season 2, episode 1, Isaac is well over 700 years old. People don't talk about that much. Because Isaac, this is young Isaac. By the end of the episode, it's old man Isaac. And as far as critics go, Jammer of Jammers review gave the episode 3 of 4 stars, calling Mad Idolatry the best episode of the season and its most ambitious, concluding, stories like Mad Idolatry have the sort of ambitious themes and scope that could be mined for greatness. We're watching greatness right now, you guys. And when the 11 days, 700 years thing was, the idea of that was first introduced to me when I first watched this episode, I had to wrap my mind around that a little bit. I had to start doing some math. I'm like, 11 days, 700 years. Like the next time we see the planet and 700 years have gone by, I had to wrap my mind around that. I wouldn't have to wrap my mind around that sort of math at this point in my life. But back then, being introduced with that, I really had to think about it at the time. But now I'm so much more better at space math, you guys. And this scene here was funny. It didn't have to be just full on. I mean, really, it's not just a humor scene. It's a very serious scene, but they added, like the Orville does, some really great humor into the mix, lighten it up a little bit. But think about it from the point of view of this lady. These people from the future show up. She's worried about her child, I'm sure, especially at this level of advancement. People would be worried about their children even surviving. Probably very lucky to even have a child. I'm sure there was a lot of problems with childbirth back in those days. Because, of course, this society mirrors our own history as a people, where we were very, very worried about our children living not only through childbirth, but also once they're alive and their children, just them surviving childhood. Because life was rough. So trivia. Originally, there were we know that 13 episodes of season one, but the 12th episode, Primal Urges, was moved to season two, making this episode the 12th and not the 13th. Oh my gosh! Maybe it would have been bad to have this be episode 13. That's an unlucky number. Uh, the originally intended season one finale was to be Identity Part 1 and 2, but they were moved to season 2 to allow more room for character development. Also, it's a good thing they moved the Identity Saga, as I call it, to season 2, because there's no way they would have been able to finish those episodes. All the effects in those episodes are huge, especially for television at this time. Just gigantic amount of work to do. There's no way they would have been able to finish it. The outfits that they're wearing are funny, especially Ed's outfit. I find Ed's outfit to be silly. That helmet that he's wearing is a little silly. I guess it works, but it is a little silly. And so this is when the episode gets really dark. We just see people basically executed hanging from pikes. And at this point, we're thinking it's Kelly's fault. But no, like they say at the end of the episode, the Interphasic People said, no, this stuff would have happened anyway, with or without the introduction of Kelly, with or without Isaac. But yeah, I'm just the storyline that is playing out within this episode is just amazing to me. It still impresses me. Oh, Kelly's gonna get you. I remember one time when I was working at Bose, long time ago, a very long time ago, that Michael Jackson story came out, about him and children. And I remember there was some parents and their kid. The kid was acting out about the same age as the little boy in this episode. The kid was acting out, and the parents said, "Do you want me to get Michael Jackson to come get you?" And the kid was scared. And at the time, it was funny, but then after thinking about it, I'm like, that's actually kind of wrong. Kind of wrong to do that. But I guess it's very similar to the Kelly scene. You want Kelly to get you or forsake you or whatever it is. And here they are after 700 years, they've been cutting people open and calling for Kelly to come save them. And I know for a fact Kelly has never saved a single one of them. Just that first little girl that got a scratch on her forehead, but they're still doing it 700 years later. Never having had her ever show up. But she showed up now, you guys. Booger says, we rarely think of fashionable headgear in sci-fi. Helmets and hats are often functional as opposed to stylish. Yeah, everything everyone's wearing in this episode is very stylish. They had some horrible style back in the day. Booger says that MJ story is horrible on multiple levels. This moment right here, and I do know that in the offices of the Orville, that they have that statue just hanging out. The statue just hanging out for anyone to see, take pictures with. Nothing else. Some people are inappropriate, but good people work for the Orville, so I'm sure they're not doing anything inappropriate. So here's the Isawa scene. So this was filmed a long time before they started filming this episode. Lieutenant Malloy holds a pair of binoculars, which are in fact a repainted toy periscope from the game Sub-Assault. That happened earlier when he was when they first arrived at the planet. So now we got to find that toy periscope from the game Sub-Assault. If anybody finds that and repaints it, they can recreate the exact same binoculars from this episode. Yeah, and as we already talked about, Scott Grimes has praised the episode as the best hour of television he has ever been a part of. I wonder if he would still say that today. I think today he would probably say it's one of the best episodes best hours of television he's been a part of, because he's been a part of some very fine hours of television since this episode aired. Actress Adrian Palicki agrees with Kelly's decision to break things off with Ed. I disagree, but she says she's right. You wouldn't be able to make decisions if you had to send her down to a fatal mission. You wouldn't be able to do it. I agree with that sentiment, but I think that sentiment would apply whether they're together or not because of how he already feels about her. What's up, Margot? Welcome to the season finale of season 1 of The Orville. The opening credits of this episode are amended in recognition of John Lamar's promotion from lieutenant to lieutenant commander, as seen in the previous episode last week when we watched New Dimensions. I almost said New Horizons. I do that a lot. Anytime I hear the word new, I'm always thinking Horizons in all aspects of life. In discussing Kelly's actions in this episode, Ed states that he wouldn't want to have to visit Kelly in prison, and Kelly quips, "You wouldn't want to visit a women's prison?" The novella Sympathy for the Devil establishes that the Planetary Union no longer has prisons, them having been determined not to be an effective corrective measure, and that now only rehabilitation facilities exist. It is, however, possible that the term was being used jokingly or euphemistically. I would say that's more than possible. It's probably what it was. But yeah, in the Orville universe, during the Orville's time, there are no prisons, there's just rehabilitation. But I bet you the population is very low because this is the Orville takes place in a post-scarcity world. A lot of crimes that people commit now all stems from scarcity, not having enough money, not having enough stuff, uh, and generations and generations being changed by that fact a little bit at a time. So, you know, people need things, they want things, but in a world where you can just have whatever you want, you can regenerate whatever you want, you can have that food, you can have that thing that you want. There's probably a lot less crime. So crime committed in the future is mostly probably by people that are have issues one way or another. Philandus. This was a fun comparison to our own society right here as well. And even when she cuts her hand open and heals it with the technology, he sees it as magic because that's the only point of view he could possibly have where he's at in his society's development. Like that saying, they always say, you know, advanced technology to people that don't know any better is always going to seem like magic. I mean, it's said better than how I remember it, but yeah, you know what I'm getting at. You've heard it before. Timeline of this episode. So this episode takes place in April and May of 2420, over 34 days. So this episode takes place over a month. And the Orville has a lot of episodes like that that takes place over a month or two. Like All the World is Birthday Cake, that takes place over a month or two, I believe. Margot B, there you go. Margot B says magic is just technology we don't understand yet. I don't know why. I mean, I guess it makes sense in this scene. She cuts her hand, but she's able to heal it, so no big whoop. But in most movies, when people need to cut themselves to make a blood oath or anything like that, they always cut their hand. And I'm like, why would you cut the palm of your hand? You're going to need to use that at some point. Cut something else. Cut the back of your hand. Cut your arm. Something like that. Don't cut the palm of your hand. You got to use it. It's going to hurt. I forgive it in this scene because she's making a point and she's going to heal herself. And he's only cutting his hand because he's trying to copy the goddess, which is what people will do. I'm going to do what they do. And look, Volandis, you healed it yourself. Yeah, boom, right there. He did it himself. For every 11 days that pass on the Orville, 700 years pass on the planet. That we know. That means 2,100 years pass on the planet and 33 days pass on the Orville during their encounter. Note that the episode begins a day before they encounter each other. Ooh, right there, I just felt an urge to tell Isaac to shut up. I was picking on Isaac real quick, like I always pick on somebody and on every sci-fi show. I almost picked on Isaac there, but I love Isaac. Samwise, what's going on? Samwise, hey, I'm out and about, but I'll give my 2 bits on this episode when I'm done with errands. All right. This video will be up. You need to go to the video later on and give it your 2 bits. So when Kelly enters the church to confront Volandis, 31 minutes remain until the planet phases out. They conclude their meeting with 9 minutes remaining. So I never even thought about that. There's a countdown going on right now. They need to get off this planet and back to the Orville before it phases out again. I never even thought about that until right now. Good old Volandis becomes Shakespearean all of a sudden. Oh, Volandis, I'm totally down with what you're doing right now. Psych, boom. So actually, if you think about it, just Kelly showing up and saying, "Hey," gets Volandis killed. I mean, inadvertently, of course. But if she didn't show up, Volandis would have lived out the rest of his days, at least 1 or 2 days, I assume. And as we know, Isaac is going to spend 700 years on the planet. Then he'll disappear as it phases out, and then the next time we'll catch up with him. Boris and Clyden's Opsata is aged 9 years or since the year 2411. So the Opsata that Ed and the Mocklins were drinking was 9 years old. So that goes back to 2411, the good old days. So the rise of the Kelly religion mimics the origins of Roman Catholicism and less overtly organized religion as a whole. The religious conflicts and arguments with secularization mirrors growing secularism and religious extremism of the 20th and 21st centuries. We'll see that comparison when they go back to the planet, and it's more like a 21st, uh, early 21st, late 20th century parallel there, where the society's not as religious, but they still got you know a lot of parallels to stuff that's going on in our world today. Here we are. Booger says, and without transporters, they can't just grab her mysteriously. No, that's one reason they don't have transporters on the Orville, so they can't, you know, get out of situations so easily and so quickly all of a sudden. They wanted to write themselves out of whatever predicament they're in. But then also, if they had transporters, it'd probably be a little too much like Star Trek. A little too much. Then Star Trek might be able to sue. But I'm glad they don't have transporters, at least not in the 25th century. We do learn that at least by the 29th century, um, in the original Orville universe before the Priia saved the Orville, that at least in her time they were supposed to have transporters at least by the 29th century. Don't know if that's still the case, being that the timeline was changed to collapse the wormhole so that they're not traveling, back and forth in time, and they probably all their society evolved in a different way without the influence of a wormhole. Yeah, Booger says it starts off generally criticizing religion, but due to some costume and set choices, it clearly gets more anti Catholic as the episode progresses. It'd be very interesting to go back and see what was going on in our society at the religious wise at the time that this episode was being written, because a lot of things that are going on in our society are going to reflect upon not only this show but all shows that are being written at the time. Like Enterprise had a lot of was heavily influenced by 9/11. A lot of their scripts. 700 seconds to Isaac is 700 years. Those accused of crimes are fatally cut on the presumptions that if they are innocent, Kelly will heal them. That reminds me a lot of the witch trials. Like if you're, they say like if they'll throw who they think are a witch into the river, and if they float on top of the water, they're a witch. But if they don't, they're not a witch. But if they don't, they also die. So it's kind of like, what's the reasoning there? They're going to die either way. From the Middle Ages through the 17th century, the accused were sometimes given a trial by ordeal, where a typically fatal scenario was imposed upon the accused. For example, women and men accused there we go. Women and men accused of witchcraft were thrown into water. If they floated, they were guilty. But they're not going to float. I just gave that example without having read it. But this is the Orville fan wiki that I'm using. There's a link in the description of this video. It has all the information on all Orville everything. I guess our great minds, you guys. We're all thinking about witches, especially this time of year. The Planetary Union's prohibition against cultural contamination, the Prime Directive for some of you, of an undeveloped civilization constitutes, right here, the equivalent to the Prime Directive against contact with developing worlds from the Star Trek franchise. Yeah. Ed suggests playing the board game Monopoly in lieu of Blackstone while the crew waits for the planet to reappear. Healing someone from a less developed culture, leading to the healer becoming deified, occurred in the Star Trek The Next Generation episode, Who Watches the Watchers? Ooh, that's such a great episode. The Picard, you guys. We got the Kelly and we got the Picard. So here are the interphasic people, just as they're getting all coolio with their glow-in-the-dark costumes. And we see their planet super advanced. They got these big old spires that come off of the planet into space. That's crazy awesome. For the longest time, I was thinking that the interphasic people eventually become the biological Kaylon. I was wrong. And I scolded Seth MacFarlane when I interviewed him for making me wrong. I was thinking, what if they advance so far that they create AI that then takes them over? I was thinking they were the original Kaylon, but they weren't. The original Kaylon were the original Kaylon. That was a great episode. We'll get to that in the future at a future date. Booger says, I don't remember any big Catholic news stories at the time. In general, Hollywood feels they are allowed broad leeway to criticize Christianity as opposed to other religions. This is another example. I don't know. I think they're criticizing all dogma in this episode, but yeah, visually it's very comparable to Catholicism, especially with Volantis. But I love what they're saying here in this episode. It's like these are things that were going to happen anyway, with or without you, with or without Isaac. These are growing pains that all societies have to go through. Now, I think the interphasic people are going through some different growing pains, or a lack of growth pains, in the episode Majority Rule. If they're or not Majority Rule, Minority. Gosh, no, not Minority. I'm getting all messed up. Mortality paradox. They've lost their ability to grow. That they have to create these weird scenarios to learn things. weird scenarios where people think they're going to die, things like that, pocket universes. Sometimes there's a thing as being too advanced. And so here's Kelly breaking up with Ed, or saying that, or not breaking up, but just saying, hey, we shouldn't move forward with where we were going. I disagree. I think it makes for great stories for a television show. A conflict there. Will they? Won't they? We want them to, but they can't. And now we know that. Well, we assume we don't know. We assume Kelly might have changed her mind. Uh, Talking about the season 3 finale of the Orville when she grabs Ed's hand and they give each other a look. We assume she's changed her mind, but we don't know for sure. It could have just been a handhold of, "Hey, buddy, you're my person. I love you so much," but that doesn't mean that she wants anything romantic to happen between them because of her already reasons of uh, thinking that it'll affect the way he commands his crew and put him in a messed up situation. I think he's already in a messed up situation no matter what. Okay, and right here, the episode ends. Let me switch stuff around. So the episode ends with Ed just having a lonely drink, all sad, uh, in the mess hall. What a great way, a thoughtful way to end a finale of the show, the first finale of the show. It's not a big to do. It's not that cliffhanger. We talked about that earlier. It's a thoughtful moment and a moment of, oh, so sad. Wasn't a happy, joyous thing. It wasn't a tense moment. It was just a, oh man, that's too bad. And then we had to wait for season 2. And what did we wait? Like a year and a half for season 2 of the Orville? I remember season 2 of the Orville premiering like the very last day of 2019, like December 30th or 31st or something like that. They just got it in right at the end of the year, but it still counted as having a new season the very next year. And then, of course, season 3 had all the delays. And season 4 has some delays as well for different reasons, for getting money together and getting the streaming services and the strikes really put a damper on that. And then also Seth MacFarlane's work schedule has put a delay on getting the next season started of the Orville. But now we know the next season starts in just a couple months. As far as production goes, getting episodes, I think, see, if they're starting the very beginning of 2025, I can see us getting some new episodes in our faces, maybe the middle of 2026 or towards the end of 2026. Brian Dawkins, official channel member. How are you doing today? Welcome. We just finished the live show. So I'm just minutes away from ending the stream so I can go. I got some things on my list that my wife has for me to do, for us to do. And but I wanted to get this watch party fit into the schedule. Now, of course, when my new work schedule begins in just over a week, I can start really getting things done, getting things scheduled. But right now, having to work all day really puts a damper on getting stuff done because I can't wake up and start getting stuff done. I have to wake up and then start getting ready for work. And then I work all day, and then I come home and I'll have like 2 hours with my family, and then it's time to go to bed again and start it all over. But that's all going to change just after a week. Oh, Brian, he had a bad week of lots of drama. I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope everything is okay. If it helps out in any way, Nicola is doing fine. She's doing good. She needs a bath. I don't give baths very often to Nicola because she won't allow it. I would have to tie her up in a bag or something like that in order to give her a bath. But she's outside all the time and she's loving it. She never strays very far. The farthest she ever goes is to the backyard of our neighbor's house, and we have just regular chain link fence. So when I'm sitting in the living room, I can look out the back door and I can always see her just sitting in the neighbor's yard, just chillaxing. Nobody's bothering her, and then she comes back when she wants to come back, usually a few times a day. But she's doing great, and the puppies are doing great. A little too great, the young one. She's only like 10 months old, and she needs to grow up, but she's not. I'm so tired of her being young. I want her to be old and chilled out like the other dog, who's great. But she'll get there. She'll get there. All right, Samwise. Samwise is finally down from the errands. Now I can give my 2 bits. Shave and a haircut, 2 bits. But yeah, this episode, so there's mistakes in this episode of the Orville. The stained glass depiction of Grayson, based on a promotional image, features her with the hairstyle she sported in the earlier episodes of the season rather than her current one. Yeah, so her, in the stained glass at the church with Volantis, it's a picture of her. Her hair's shorter, which they claim is a mistake, but I think it's a mistake for the stained glass picture to look anything like Kelly. Why would her picture be so accurate when basically her whole existence is just hand-me-down stories? Why would she look anything like the way that she looked? Maybe have I'm surprised her garments didn't look like the type of garments that the people wore of the time, and maybe keep the blue. I can see the color blue making its way through the telephone game of stories that are passed on about her. But I'm surprised it looked anything like her. But really, it looking like her was for the viewer and not for the actual story. Samwise says, Mad Idolatry, here we go, is a weak episode to end the seasons, especially there's already a more superior Religion is Bad episode if the stars should appear. Oh, that used to be my favorite episode until this episode. But I get what you're saying. I don't think it's a weak episode, but I can see how people would think it's a weak episode because it's mellow, it's chill. Like I was talking about, the very end scene is nothing big is going on. It's a thoughtful conversation. Kelly said she doesn't want to move on, and Ed is just sitting alone drinking his drink, and things go to black. Not exciting, but thoughtful, I thought. And for me, especially when this episode first aired, when everything was a big to-do, everything was just a big, the finale of anything was just a huge pew-pew explosion fest. So for me, I like the contrast of that, especially at the time. Now it doesn't matter as much because once you're done with the season 1 finale, you can just move straight on to season 2. You could just keep it going, do a little pee-pee dance with season 2. And so I appreciated it at the time for those reasons, but I can see where people would say that, would see it in that way. Samwise says, if I had it my way, Identity Part 1 would be the season end on a cliffhanger. And actually, Identity Part 1 and 2 were supposed to be the finales of this episode, but of course they couldn't even begin diving into getting those episodes done because of how huge they were. They never would have finished production on those 2 episodes to put them into season 1. But I do know the Isaac's Kaylon deception was established very early on in the writing process and the creation process of the Orville. But they decided to take their time with it and put it into season 2, which ended up being great because, wow, I did not see that coming when it turns out Isaac was a Kaylon spy the entire time. But me personally, I like the chillness of Mad Idolatry at the end moments there. Though I know we got used to cliffhangers, especially, what was it, season 3 finale of The Next Generation, season 3 to season 4. Was it season 3 to season 4, or was it season 4 to season 5? I kind of want to say season 3 to season 4, the whole Acutus Aboard thing. That was the cliffhanger that I'm still I loved it, but I'm still pissed off about it because that was a long summer between the finale episode and then the episode 1 of the next season. I was like, oh, that summer was so tough to get through. Yeah, I do remember, especially at the point in my life when this episode aired, that I was tired of cliffhangers. I still love cliffhangers, but at that point I was tired of them because they become so overdone by a lot of different productions. It's kind of like, for me, it's kind of like with M. Night Shyamalan. Every M. Night Shyamalan movie is great until they do the twist. They have to always have a twist. And M. Night Shyamalan movies, the first couple twists of his movies were great, and then every twist after that, I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, I have nothing wrong with the cliffhanger. The best Orville cliffhanger, I think, is Identity 1 and 2. That means put Happy Refrain in season 1 for continuity. Oh, it would mean a lot of things. That'd be an interesting project, is to put episodes of all 3 seasons of the Orville. Put episodes, make a playlist that has a very specific, intentional play order to get a different effect story-wise to the viewer. But yeah, put Identity Part 1, just jaw on the floor with that cliffhanger moment. I'm like, oh my God, the Orville's being taken over. But we're not there yet. Curtis Tate. Welcome, Curtis Tate. Excellent episode. I want to say thank you, but not thank you for me. Thank you from the Orville production, because I had nothing to do with that episode being made. They had everything to do with it. James at Large, what's going on? Hey, do you know how I can get in touch with Seth? No. I mean, I know how to get in touch with Seth, but that's a personal connection. The best thing I can think of, James, is he's on Twitter. He's on social media. He's on Instagram and he's on Twitter. He has responded to me when I've messaged him. We've had little conversations here and there. I don't know if that's just because it's me or just because I messaged him and he happened to see it. You can tag him on stuff. You can send him a message on there, maybe, if he hasn't disconnected the ability for already established connections to not come through. There's different settings on these social media sites. You can try tagging him and asking him a question, or sending him a message on one of the social media sites. Like I said, he's on Instagram and on Twitter, and he uses Instagram quite a bit. So you can try that, and he might, if he sees it at the right time, might be able to answer you or respond to you. That's the best I got at this moment. Sam Willis says, KK, I didn't know the episodes had to be shuffled. Thanks for the context. Well, there are different episodes of the Orville all through all 3 seasons that kind of go together. Like this episode, man, Idolatry, you can totally play, definitely play, why do I keep forgetting the name of this? Mortality Paradox right after it. Those 2 episodes go together, and I'm sure I can figure out a couple episodes in the middle that would still apply. You can make different arranged playlists for the Orville episodes. And to say you want to introduce someone to the Orville, you can put your best episodes that you think are the best into a little playlist and say, hey, watch this. Or you can get something totally different out of a storyline. Like you get all the Mocklin episodes. And by Mocklin episodes, I don't mean Bortus and Clydean episodes, because Bortus and Clydean episodes aren't the same as Mocklin episodes. Mocklin episodes is more of the Havina, Topa type episodes. Those are the Mocklin episodes. Bortus and Clydean episodes are just Bortus and Clydean episodes. Deck says season 1 took a bit of time to find its feet. However, once it did, they ran. Yeah, for me, I think season 1 really started appealing to me story-wise with Majority Rule. That's an episode where I'm like, okay, this is the type of sci-fi that I like, the kind that the what if episodes. What if there was a planet that was totally ran by social media? That type of thing. I've always loved that type of sci-fi. Electa says, I liked The Village. The Village, I remember I went to the theater to see The Village. At this point, I was a huge, everybody was a huge M. Night Shyamalan fan. I remember I liked The Village until the reveal at the end. I did not like the reveal. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. But thinking back now, being the person I am today, that's kind of cool. I kind of like that idea. I might rewatch that movie. But at the time, I was like rolling my eyes. But now I don't think I would. Like M. Night Shyamalan did the movie Old. It just came out a couple years ago. I liked that movie quite a bit just because it was a what if episode, what if movie, what if you're growing old really quickly, basically. I did not like the reveal at the end. I was like, oh, it's just a simple thing going on. But I still like the movie quite a bit. I'm kind of cooling down on my thoughts of M. Night Shyamalan. I'm kind of giving him a chance again. There's that movie that he just came out with, Trapped, I think it's called. It's going to be premiering on Max in just a couple days. So I'm going to watch it. But the whole idea of it seems really cool. So I'm kind of warming back up to M. Night. But there was a while there I was like rolling my eyes with everything. But now that I'm older, my eyes aren't rolling as hard on some of the things that I used to roll my eyes on. Electa says, I like history, so the setting appeals to me. Nice. But yeah, I mean, it's even The Village is kind of a what if. What if somebody kept an entire society of people in a back in timey sort of situation? I guess the adults knew what was going on, but none of the new generation knew what was going on. Brian Dawkins says, same thing happened with Star Trek original series. The episodes were shuffled. Yeah, and things were even different back then. They were just Star Trek was back in the 60s. They were just trying to put out a show every week. The producers were probably stopped caring about the order of the episodes. They're just like, we just got to put out an episode that's going to appeal to people. We don't want this show to be canceled. And it still got canceled. But, you know, in retrospect, it maybe should have gone on a little bit longer. And in some ways it did. It went on for like 50 years. We still got it going on. But yeah, that original series, even though it means so much more to us, at the time, it was just a TV show. It's not anymore. But back in the day when it was live, when it was not live, but when it was airing, it was just a TV show that was on. Now it means so much more to people. Yeah, Chris says Majority Rules was a turning point for me too. Yeah, that's just my type of sci-fi. Alexis says the reveal for The Village was cool, but ticked me off. Went to the theater to see that one, says Margot B. Chris Andrew, I do wish there were more repercussions or stories associated with Isaac being trapped on the planet for hundreds of years. Yeah, now I don't think we're ever going to get officially stories from that. But I have always wondered myself, what was going on for those 700 years? Did Isaac make friends? Was he adopted by a family? What was going on? 700 years. There's a lot of stuff that could have happened. What ways did he influence the society that nobody even has considered? Those stories I don't think will ever be written, but you can write those stories. We can write those stories. And I think the Orville fandom would love to read those stories. And you could pretty much almost make up anything. Whatever you can imagine could have happened. Who did the others? I tried to watch the others the other night because we're kind of on a Halloween kick right now at my house. My wife and I were trying to watch scary-ish type movies. I wanted to watch the others, but it was only available for rent. And I'm like, with all these streaming services, I'm not renting anything. If it's not on a streaming service that I pay for, I'm not watching it. I don't remember who did the others. That's a good question, Ona. I'm kind of interested. Dex says, I must admit, I was hooked as soon as Kelly said, oh, no. Oh, no. And Brian says, I'll never forget From Unknown Graves. That is the episode with the full Kalon, biological Kalon story. I mean, there's a lot of other cool stuff going on in that episode, but I super appreciated the original Kalon backstory in that episode. I never thought we'd get it, and we got it so fully. I thought if we ever learned about the original Kalon, it would just be a quick conversation. I didn't think we'd actually be shown a whole mini episode of what happened to the biologicals. Alexis says, I have the others on VHS. Boy, I haven't seen my VHS tapes in years. I don't even think I have them anymore. I went through my old DVDs a few weeks ago to see if I had the others. I did not. But yeah, for weeks I've been interested in watching the others. That was a great movie. The twist on that movie, that was a great dang twist, I must say. Headcanon. Isaac did write a report, but no one wants to read 700 years of Isaac's writing. I guess the Kalon could read it very quickly, but yeah, humanoid eyes wouldn't want to read something that long. And if every report is longer than a page, that means it's a report that is a lot longer than 700 pages, which is a lot of pages on its own. Brian says, oh yeah, Silo Series 2 starts October 21st. It's that time of year, you guys, where TV shows are coming back. The shows that you've been watching, their new seasons are arriving right now. There's the new season of Abbott Elementary, which I just watched the new episode. There's there's not a lot of shows that I watch, except for things I just find at the time. Saturday Night Live is back. But, you can give or take Saturday Night Live. Take it or leave it. But whatever shows you watch, if they have multiple seasons, the latest season is coming out pretty much right now. Maybe today even. All right, Samwise, I got to go too. Samwise says, got to go. Back to errands. Bye, everybody. Had a great time, as did I. But I should go too. One of the things on the list that I have to do is we got to take the dogs to the dog park. They got the zoomies, and they need to get those zoomies out so that we can enjoy the rest of the day without dogs going crazy all over the house. Ghost is back. Oh, I'm super excited about that, Curtis. I'm a huge fan of Ghosts. All right, Brian Dawkins, thank you so much for stopping by. Now that we've finished season 1 watch party, we're going to take a break from watch parties and just go back to regular chatting it up live shows. Also, I got to get the union back together so we can do some union live streams as well. And it's not till next month, but we're going to be doing the next episode of the Orville RPG tabletop game. That'll be later on next month. We're working out the details already. We were chatting a little bit earlier today to see when people are available. It's that time of year where there's the holidays and people got events and holiday stuff to do. So we're trying to work around that. So keep an eye out for that. And the next week, I'll have to see. I'm finishing my final week of training at my new job next week. So we'll see if I'm able to go live or not. But if not, then definitely we'll start firing all the quantum drives back up for Talking the Orville the week after that. I've been waiting 6 weeks to really get to dive in. And then I'm, of course, going to be doing some Egotastic Fun Time videos over on the big channel. But we don't need to worry about that. That's a whole other thing. That's a whole other life over there. It's a whole different YouTube life. But yeah, I should be taking off too because I want to get these dogs to the dog park before the sun starts going down. It's already starting to get chilly outside, and I don't like wearing jackets. But I might have to wear a jacket. No, I think it might be fine for a couple more hours. All right, Brian. Always happy to hang out with you. Same here, buddy. Great show, says Margot. Got to go make dinner now. Well, thank you all for stopping by. Dex says, I'm still yet to finish The Happening on Disney Plus. It's not that good. I hear that. I've never seen The Happening, but I might have to put that on my list just because at this point, I've watched a lot of good stuff Halloween-wise, but there's still a lot of time left before Halloween, so I got to find more stuff. So The Happening might make it into the mix because I'm trying to watch as much stuff as I can that I haven't already seen, which that's tougher and tougher to do as time goes by. But I want to thank you all for showing up, hanging out with me for this finale of the Orville. I'll see you all very soon, especially after my new schedule starts after a week from now. And we're going to have an Orville-tastic time. And some of us will have an ego-tastic fun time over on the main channel. But I'll see you all very soon. Let me click some buttons here. And remember, we all do better. All of us. We all do better when we all do better together. Love you. Bye-bye.